bringing you a new episode of Gravity Blues, the podcast where myself and my co-host Ren explore Earth and extraterrestrial concerns and interests. Ren, I want to apologize, before we start if I sound a little hoarse. I was screaming my brains out last night at the Kendrick Lamar concert, and SZA was there too. But yeah, a little tired as well.
I'm sure it was
not the best day.
an absolute blast. I still think the one song he has is so funny where he says peekaboo. The one.
Oh yeah, no, he did that song, Peekaboo.
Hilarious.
Yeah, that one was fun. That had a lot of people. A lot of people were singing along with that one. But it was up in Detroit, and it was a stadium show. So like they did it at Ford Field where the Lions play, and that was the first time I was ever at that stadium, and I think it's the first I was at that AC/DC show, which that was, I guess, a stadium show as well, but I don't know, like this was like the first one like in this kind of like genre, I guess, like kind of like rap, R&B, more poppy stuff that I've ever been to before. So but it was cool. It kind of surprised me because it was Kendrick's tour, and then the opener is technically SZA, but it was actually more of like a co-headliner kind of deal because like at first kind of started with Kendrick, and then SZA did a few songs, and then Kendrick did songs, SZA did songs. They kind of repeated that like 3 times. They both had like, I think SZA had like 3 different sets, and like Kendrick had like 3.5 kind of
cool.
sets, which, yeah. So, and I'll say this, I was definitely there more to see Kendrick. I like SZA, but I'm not super familiar with all of her songs, but like pretty much just her big hits. But there were definitely people there that you could tell were people were there for SZA, and some people were there for Kendrick.
I was going to say,
for both.
I mean, I can see how there is some overlap, but I bet that there is a good amount of people that are like there for one or the other, so they probably do pretty well like touring together just because they're getting each other's fans at the shows.
Yeah, it was sold out. That thing was freaking packed.
Now did they do the show in the corner of Ford Field like they did at that one Thanksgiving show where who was that? Oh gosh, it was some pop singer. It was like an NFL game, and they had like a halftime.
It was like it was in that like end zone area, I'd say. So, but not one of those where they have it like in the center of everything, and they do like a 360. Yeah. Even though the stage was kind of set like that, but it was. And I guess the other thing too is like, and you don't really realize this till you're there, but like SZA and Kendrick have a ton of songs where they're collabing. So like there were a ton of spots where they were, doing songs together, but a lot of the time it's like she's on one of Kendrick's songs. So it honestly felt, I think she may have done more songs. She was a part of more songs than Kendrick was, which was kind of interesting to see, but she put on a great show. And the only thing is like, I feel with those kind of shows, like is very hit or miss with like the sound quality of like the production and the vocals, just because it's like, you're in such a big, open, empty kind of space. It doesn't really, there might be some pockets of the stadium that can hear things better or more clear than other parts.
Well, that's inherent, right? Not just because it's the big place, but that genre is like more about the vocals and the lyrics, right? And so where if you go see like AC/DC, the guitar can sound really good because it's loud, and and you don't really care about the vocals like in terms of coming in super clear because it's but so I can see how that makes a big difference in rap.
And SZA had a few songs there too where she had like some guitar solos going on. Like guy came out with a guitar and was like, shredding. And in those parts where I'm like, yeah, this is sounding awesome, just because it's like that sound is definitely more for that style, but it's like it's so popular, you gotta have it in like a stadium or like some kind of open field. But I think with stuff like this, they definitely prefer to have it in because Ford Field has a roof, so they definitely prefer to have like something like this with a roof because don't want to get things rained out and weather's unpredictable.
Let the rain in.
Yeah, dude. Metallica's playing out in the rain.
Weather on.
During them and Limp Bizkit was their opener. I saw them playing in the rain. I'm like, this is kind of these guys are getting up there in age, especially Metallica. For them to keep going is cool.
No, rock on the weather, man.
Yeah. But wanted to bring some attention to that. Good show. I don't know where they're at in their tour, if this was pretty early on, but I know they were at like the BET Awards like the night before SZA and Kendrick. So they like flew right from that to go to Detroit and, still were able to put on a pretty solid show. So that's awesome. Wanted to throw that your way. But I see here, you put something in sports, and I'm pretty sure I know what you're referring to.
Yeah.
But I'll let you.
Yeah. So
going away.
Well, there's a couple of things happening in sports right now. There's a couple of leagues that are having their finals. But before we talk about that, because that stuff is not as fun as I actually hate like Aaron Rodgers. I think he sucks like as a dude, and I don't enjoy watching him play football at all. Especially these days when he's trash. And so I saw this awesome quote Myles Garrett said. I think they were like, "What are you excited to play against?" Aaron Rodgers or something. And he's like, "Put him in the graveyard." And I was like, "That's awesome." Because
I guess do you know
because the costume
behind that quote?
Yeah.
Well, so the costume, and then also I don't know if he still does it, but there was like I'm sure he just still does it, but there was at least a few year stretch where every Halloween he would put up tombstones in his front yard, and each tombstone would have a quarterback he sacked.
I thought it was just the costume that had the tombstones on.
No,
so I didn't even know the full details.
Yeah, so this is like kind of an extension of that.
No, that's sweet.
Yeah, but some people were like, thought he was like, actually, it was like, I'm gonna kill this guy or whatever. I'm like, maybe Mason Rudolph, but I love Aaron Rodgers. But I also have to agree. I was actually, and maybe this will bite me back, or after the season, and say they go on the Steelers go on a magical run.
No way.
I think it's most likely they actually have their worst season instead of one of their best seasons in a while.
I think this is the year that the Tomlin gets fired. I think they're going to fire.
Yeah. Which would be crazy because like he's been so consistent, even though they haven't done anything in the playoffs for so long.
Yeah,
it's such a weird state that team is in, and for Aaron Rodgers to come in and kind of
that's the whole thing.
Would kind of make me happy, but
it's awesome because the reason that they've been able to be so consistent and good with him is because he is like a force of nature in himself, Mike Tomlin, and he's like he gets these teams that are average to play like better than they are, and that's awesome. Great coach, right? Can do that.
Yep.
But also, like, if you don't buy into his way, you get cut, or you're like, you know what I mean? You're off the team. He doesn't play around.
Yep, you're done.
And then they bring in this other guy who is also force of nature, like, wants to do it his way. And to be honest, I think they have very different, like, gonna do it my way vibes to them.
Yeah.
Like, Mike Tomlin's not going into the darkness retreat.
No.
Like, that's not happening. So, I think that's it's destined to be a fiery crash and burn, which they could have the Ohio State quarterback. I'm blanking on his name, but
that's what I was before they ended up signing him. As an Ohio State fan, I was very scared that it was going to be one of those situations where it's like you could have drafted, or as an Ohio State and Browns fan, Sky's national championship. Could have drafted him. He ended up falling to the 6th round. So, maybe that says something about him. I don't know. I personally don't think he should have fell all the way down there.
The Browns are taking people around there too.
Well, that's what I was saying. Hey, I'm happy with the one guy we got. The other guy, I'm like, I don't know. But we'll see. But I was very worried before they got Aaron Rodgers because I don't want I want it's weird. It's a weird state they're putting me in because I want Will Howard to do good, but I
Yeah,
don't want the Steelers to do good. So
yeah.
I don't really know who to root for. So if he's not starting, then I can just be like, all right, I don't
Well,
want this team
yeah.
to do good.
So I
And
think
it's Aaron
let's
Rodgers starting for them too, so
yeah.
even better.
It's so good because Aaron Rodgers is just a sucky dude. Not a great
Right.
guy. So yeah. So the hope is Aaron Rodgers sucks the first 10 games of the season, and then they bring in Will Howard to and he plays out his mind, but they still
Yeah.
suck, and so they lose out.
I'd be
Um,
okay with that.
yeah, that's.
I just like to see them go under 500 one time.
I think it would be
I'm
very
just
hard
hoping.
for them to not do that this season. I would be
Mhm.
very surprised. But also, this also does give Will Howard his year in the background to develop, and maybe he'll be the guy next year if unless they are really bad, and then they'll have Arch Manning, and that'll be
Yeah,
sad for a Browns fan.
yeah,
But
yeah.
but yeah, so great. I really liked that quote, so I just wanted to talk about
Mhm.
that. As far as the other leagues are going, the NHL, we haven't talked about the playoffs going on just because these two teams. I mean, I don't think nobody here in Ohio. I don't think we care that much. Um, it's Florida and Edmonton Oilers.
Same matchup as last year too, right?
Is
Because
Was
I
it the
thought it was
Oilers
Edmonton
last
and
year?
Florida. Yeah, because
Okay,
they almost came back from the 3-1.
okay. Well, I know
I'm pretty
The
sure, and
Panthers
then
won, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and then the Panthers almost blew it. But
yeah. Well, the
but yeah, like you
Panthers.
said, I don't know a single Oiler or
Well, there's,
Panthers fan
well,
or
yeah,
in my life
fans, yeah. I mean,
fan.
obviously the Oilers have some pretty big names in their team, like Connor McDavid, who is widely regarded as the best NHL player right now. Um, and then the Panthers, I'm kind of going Panthers. There's a couple of things that are again, I don't really care, but it's the Panthers have a couple of former Jackets who are really good on the
Mm.
Jackets. Their goalie
The
is
goalie, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Bobrovsky. He was really good on the Jackets 6 years ago, and then they have Seth Jones too, who was one of our defensemen who when he's partnered with Zach Werenski, those two were spectacular. The same year that we had Bobrovsky, and then we got rid of our Bobrovsky went to Florida, and Seth Jones went to Chicago for a little bit and
Hmm.
struggled there. Now he might win a Stanley Cup, so good for him.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, the vibes I'm getting from or this matchup at least is the Panthers are more like well-rounded, like I think have more depth and more talented. But like you said, the Oilers probably have the better player.
well, they
Um,
have McDavid, and then they have Leon Draisaitl, and these two. McDavid is, they call him McJesus, right? He's a great
mhm,
goal scorer, great playmaker. Is the maybe the best player in the NHL, if not
mhm.
the best. And then they also have this guy Leon Draisaitl, who is I think a top two. If you don't want to say McDavid is, this guy is one of the best shooters in the league. All he does, he can
Mm,
shoot crazy. So they have these two guys that are unbelievably good, and then they have a
yeah,
couple other guys that are pretty good. But then so it's
yeah. This is giving me, as a Cavs fan myself, this is giving me like the 2010s Cavs versus Warriors kind of thing, where
mm,
the Cavs, it was LeBron and Kyrie. Kyrie's just that
mm,
elite scorer. You give him the ball, he's going to make the shot. And then you have LeBron, who's at the time was the best
yeah,
player in the world. But then you go against a team like the Warriors, who you know, just unstoppable kind of force. So, and you get to
yeah,
see them in the finals. But it's a lot. I'm sure, like if you weren't a fan of either of those teams, like say like you weren't a fan of the Cavs or the Warriors, and you see those teams go to the finals 4 straight years.
yeah,
Yeah, four straight years. You're probably like, this is like this kind of sucks. You want to see
yeah.
new teams.
Well,
You want to see new
so
teams in the
the fun
finals.
thing is about the matchup. There hasn't A Canadian team hasn't won the Stanley Cup in 20 years. So it's like
That's great.
there's a pretty sweet little. They only have 6 teams, right?
Yeah,
But
so they have a ton, but
but
yeah,
uh but still, it's supposed to be their sport. Most of the
it's
players in the
Canada.
NHL
Yeah.
are Canadian, so it's like pretty cool that the U.S. has maintained that streak. We like that. And then the other side of it is the one guy that I do have really negative feelings about is on the Oilers, Evander Kane, and
Mm,
he's just a weird guy. He was a superstar at San Jose, the Sharks,
mm.
and during COVID, he refused to get like a
Oh,
shot,
yeah.
and uh, and then
He made it his whole personality,
well, yeah, I mean,
probably too.
but it was
Yeah.
more than that. They were like, okay, well, you're not gonna play, but then it came out this whole stuff about how he has to play because he's in like crazy gambling debts, and so like all of his income it goes to pay for that, and so like by sitting out, he was like in violation and was like potentially gonna go to jail, and so
Yeah.
it was like a whole this whole like dramatic cycle,
They
and
should they should call them the San Jose Loan Sharks
the loan
instead.
sharks. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's basically the whole situation because the reason he got traded is because if he'd stayed in California because of the like California's strict like COVID stuff, he would have gone to jail probably because
Wow.
that's how like serious it was, and so he went to Edmonton and they embraced him, and he's been actually kind of good there, and so that's what's you're like you kind of hate to see that, like
Yeah, you're like, damn it. You would have thought this would have been the fall from grace kind of
yeah.
moment for this player. But I guess to go back on because Canada, that is definitely their main sport, and like you mentioned, a lot of the players are from are Canadian. But I guess it's one of those things where they only have 6 teams, and it's like in the NHL, right? It's like you go to whatever team you go to, correct, or is it
No,
differently?
well,
Does it work
they
differently in
have
the
a draft
NHL?
in the NHL. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, I mean, like, when I said whatever team you go to, like, whatever team you get selected
Oh yeah.
by is the team you go to. So you don't really get there's not
Yeah.
like
I
a
mean, sure.
preference for the Canadian players.
Well, Canadian teams have a preference for Canadian players. I mean, think about like later round drafting or like free agents. Guys will like try to go home or try to be close to where they're
Okay.
from, right? And so
Yeah.
there's always that thing about Toronto is one of those cities that can just sign the best Canadian in the open market because these guys grew up like loving Toronto, right? And so like
Okay.
there's that, but then
Mm.
also with the scouting, when you're like scouting the local kids coming through, teams do have like a regional preference, I think, beyond like the top talents. Like if there's like a bunch of middle guys, you're gonna pick the guy from your area just because it's a good story, I guess, and you know
Yeah.
them better. Like maybe you've
Yeah.
seen them, so
Yeah. That makes sense. And who knows? Maybe they play. Maybe subconsciously, they're playing for their favorite team growing up. They're gonna be better. Who
well,
knows?
you like the marketing behind that, right?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
Jackets, I think
Gotta make money.
have like 4 guys that are from Columbus right now.
Oh.
Which is cool. One of
Yeah.
them is Cole Sillinger, whose dad played for the Jackets, which is cool. Although we've talked about before, he plays for Canada, the national, so it's because his dad was Canadian. But it's like,
Yeah.
come on, you were born here,
Yeah. Right.
but
Come on. Gotta represent.
it's okay.
Taking the easy way out.
Yeah. Anyway, with that series, I think is 2-1. It was the first 2 games were really close. Like I think it was like 4-3 and a 5-4. But then yesterday's game or the 2 days ago was 6-1. The Panthers won that. So, it's who knows how that's going to go. Maybe the Panthers are just going to sweep the rest of the series and it'll be over.
Yeah.
But
I'll always pray for Game 7.
it's just more fun. Now I gotta say, because I kind of been trying to follow more the NBA finals.
Yeah.
I know it's the Pacers and their stars Halliburton, right?
Yes.
And then the other team,
The Thunder.
the Thunder. Oh yeah, Oklahoma City. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And they have their dudes like Shy Gary or something like that.
Yeah. Shay. He's
Shay.
he's Canadian.
No, okay, which is fine. He has a French sign. He's probably from Montreal or something. But I
Mhm.
just want to say now this is just something that I've noticed, okay, with basketball in general, okay.
Hmm.
Um, it kind of seems like, and I think maybe it's just like there's a big generational shift happening perhaps in that sport. But I'm not like a big basketball guy. I've very much have not followed it throughout life, but I've been aware of certain names, especially like I feel like most of the people that I've heard of or could name were guys like from like the 90s or 2000s, or like older
Yeah.
maybe, and maybe that's because they had full careers, and I've heard of them even still. They set records, right? But it does seem like as basketball has like grown and become like, I don't know. I do think the sport's still growing, but I think the
Yeah.
star power, yeah,
Worldwide, it
well,
has grown.
worldwide,
Yeah.
absolutely, right?
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, definitely. But I think the actual star power of individual players has
Yes.
decreased. Where
Oh, yes. It not even like talent. Like I wouldn't even say like the talent
no,
level.
I'm
I
not saying
think
that at
a
all.
lot of these guys are just don't want to embrace it, and maybe that's
Mm,
just because you have the shadow of like LeBron, Steph, Kevin Durant, like all these guys that are top 10, going to be end up top 10, if not top 15 players in the league of all time
hmm.
are still in the league, and were those superstar guys that you kind of you knew who
And there's still the
those
names that
were.
right? So
Yeah,
that's
yeah, and they're still playing. So I don't know. Maybe once they retire, which I don't know I don't know how many more years LeBron has, but like maybe when those guys retire, maybe it'll kind of help with that. But yeah, I 100% agree with the lack of the star power, and they definitely are having a hard time. I think the NBA is having a hard time trying to
like market
pinpoint
stars,
who they want. Yeah, trying to pinpoint who, because there's some guys like um, Anthony Edwards. He plays for the Timberwolves. He's
right?
their best player, one of the best players in the league, and he's made public statements about how he doesn't really. It's not that big of a deal to him. He doesn't really care
Mm.
about being like a big star, which you would think a guy like that who plays like that, kind of like how like Michael Jordan plays. What you would think that that he'd be 100% up for that, but it seems otherwise. So
Hmm.
I don't know if it's just the guys coming into the league are different, because the talent's there. Like the Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, who's on the Thunder,
Yeah.
he just won the MVP, averaging over like 30 points per game and ton of
Yeah,
assists, and
but see,
defensively he's
and I
awesome.
know, he's a young guy, right? He's like 22.
Yes. Oh, no, I think he might be like 25. I think
Okay.
he's like
Well,
25,
still
25, but
very
relatively
young.
young.
So,
Relatively young.
and
Yeah.
probably has been around in the NBA. I know they start young, but probably has been around for a little bit. But still,
Yeah.
like until like I am like watching these NBA finals, I'd never heard of them before. And same with, and I'm not a basketball guy. I recognize that, but I'm just saying like, you know what I mean? And same with Halliburton. These are the two stars, these teams I've never heard of until they've made it to this big
And
stage. I know they
right.
play for
It,
smaller teams or like with smaller
yeah.
markets.
And it's kind of interesting that they're both playing each other because, yeah, they're both young. I think they both came out. They may have came out in the same draft class too. I
Okay.
can't remember, but around the same time. And it is interesting with them both coming to the finals at the same time, because usually with this situation, it's you'll have a young star and he'll carry his team to the finals, or he'll be
Hmm.
on a really good team, they'll go to the finals, but then they'll be going up the veteran team, all the names, like for example LeBron, his first time going into the finals, he was, I think, 23 years old, or
Hmm.
20, maybe even 22, very very young, and he carried his team to the finals. But he goes up against the San Antonio Spurs, who have Tim Duncan, all these players that are great players that a good amount of people know. Or even there's even better examples, like when LeBron went up against the Oklahoma City Thunder in the finals in the 2010s. It was on that Thunder team. It was Kevin Durant,
Hmm.
um, young Russell Westbrook, young James Harden. All of those three of those guys ended up winning MVPs
We'll see,
after,
and see
after that year.
those are guys that even as a non-basketball
Yeah.
fan, I'm familiar with. You know.
Yes.
Hmm.
So I think in a few years you might end up knowing these two guys, or whoever, but right now I think there's not a good stepping stone in between the young stars, like the middle of the road stars,
Yeah.
and then like kind of the stars that are starting to might be on the door of retirement. So they definitely have a little bit of a kind of a issue there, and it definitely doesn't help ratings either. I
Yeah,
don't think.
I don't know. I've just always thought basketball in particular was like really good at marketing their stars. Like the NBA was always really good at that compared to like we just talked about hockey. Hockey, the NHL has sucked about that for a long time, and I think it's the NHL players for a long time have been not so interested in being media presences, which the NBA maybe it is what you're talking about like a shift because I've always thought that they've done that like a lot better, and so and you look at the names that come through, and I think average people could name a bunch of different basketball players, and maybe you're getting Gretzky from people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just a weird contrast there, but it's
Hmm.
yeah something to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think this is another. I don't know. I guess I'm not too sure what the odds are um, for the NHL Stanley Cup is,
Hmm.
but I think like this NBA Finals, it does seem a little. They're playing Game 3 right now tonight, and it's tied 1-1. But like looking at the teams, it looks like it's like the Thunder should,
Yeah,
they're the best
but
team.
you've been saying that the whole playoffs about the Pacers, man. You've been like, oh,
Oh
this
well,
team
yeah,
should beat the
no,
Pacers. This team should
they
beat the
got devil
Pacers.
magic. Well, that's what I'm saying. They got devil magic going on in Indiana. I'm not ever stepping foot in that state until the finals is till the season is over because
Yeah.
they're doing something over there. I'm scared to even look into what kind of sacrifices they're
Oh,
making.
that's speaking. That's so. What's so funny about in the NFL? I just saw a post about like the odds for the worst team this year, like who's gonna have the least amount of wins. And I was like,
Hmm.
and the team that comes to my mind immediately is the Colts. I'm like, the Colts are gonna be terrible. Like Anthony
Yeah.
Richardson, Daniel Jones. It's like both those terrible options.
Yep.
Um, and then like really sad their owner just died, right? So there's like a lot of
Yeah.
flux going on in the team, which won't help. Um, but that they were the number two because the worst team expected this year is the Browns. That's like
I knew it. We're good at something.
yes,
We're good
number
at
one.
something. Yeah,
Nice.
we're number one. Yeah, hey, that means we can just prove everyone wrong.
Yeah,
If we end up second worst team, prove them wrong.
yeah,
They can't tell us shit.
yeah.
So, hey, that's all right. Only up from here.
Yeah, exactly. Um, let's talk some film TV real quick. First of all,
Yeah.
I texted you about this. I know you don't have Apple TV yet, but
Mm.
it's called Stick. It's a show on Apple TV starring Owen Wilson and Mark Maron. By the way, it's really sad that the Mark Maron podcast is that he's gonna retire it in
Oh,
the fall.
what did he give a reason why he's
He
ending it?
said that him and his producer decided that it was time. Yeah, I think
Ooh.
he's like, yeah, I'm like 64, or no, he's not that. I think he's like he says like I'm 61, and I think
Mhm.
it's time to do it. I think he said burnout. So it's like really sad because I actually listened to like I listened to all that show twice a
Mm.
week when it drops. So really sad. But yeah, this show is really good. It's like about golf. It's about Owen Wilson. He's like teaching. He's like a washed-up golfer, and
Mm.
there's like a kid, and he's teaching the kid, like taking the kid on the tournament and stuff. And it's got like that same Apple TV shows have like a good little, feel good energy a lot of the time, and this has that. Um,
Mm.
it's not like a crazy blow your mind kind of story, but yeah, I think it's fun. Fun little, and it comes out week by week, which helps me because
Oh, yeah.
I struggle watching this stuff.
Yeah.
So
Binge it.
I struggle with the binging because it's like I get bored. You know what I mean? But week by week,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm like I like this.
Yeah. Like binging is good if you want to like rewatch a series, like you're
Hmm.
like, all right, like it, like say like for example, I sometimes will do this like when like a new season, say like season 2 of a show comes
Yeah.
out. sometimes I'll just rewatch the first season right before, do a binge of that, just to, just to get in the headspace of the show again. Because, they do the recaps, but sometimes it's good to, unless you're like, I don't know, unless you're in like a show where it's like, you're like 15 seasons deep, then it's like, all right, I know what I'm getting myself into. I don't need to, do all this. That's too much. But
yeah, no, I mean, it's like, for me, I think if I binge something, a lot of time I'll get like through, like if there's like 10 episodes, I'll get through like 6 of them, or like the 4 to 6 range, and then I'll just be like, I'll come back to this, and then I'll just
and
won't,
don't,
and I don't, because nothing, because it's not there the next week, popping up again, and I'm like, oh,
yeah, and I think too. I think I like the discourse around it better as well, at least like social media discourse, because it's like, then it's like people are talking about the show, just a single episode, because that's the only one that just came out. So you can get a good like idea of how everyone's feeling about it instead of just about the whole show entirely. And, that's why I feel like you start jumping to, because some people might not want to watch it all the way through. Yeah. So then, then you're getting spoilers and all that.
Yeah, like this show, Stick, if it had dropped all the way, I like probably wouldn't enjoy it so much, because I think it's not, like I said, it's not like incredible like writing. It's just like good and like enjoyable, and it's funny. You know what I mean? I like the cast, and so it's like that stuff doesn't take me the whole way. So
yeah,
in like long sittings, but in the short sittings, I can enjoy it a lot. But we're gonna move on here, because I want to talk to you about the Rinsrek of the week. Okay. This is a sexy movie. Okay.
Sexy. I didn't know. I didn't know you. You're in that lane of movies,
dude. So this movie is like, it's gorgeous. It's called Parthenope. Okay. It came out last year in Italy. It was nominated for the I think it's the Film d'Or or whatever, like in a con. So it's just like a really big, people recognized it. It could be really good. Directed by Paolo Sorrentino, who's done some other great films. This is in Italian, so, where he's got some English language films, but this one is in Italian. And before I say anything else, Parthenope is the name of this character. It's also the nickname of Napoli, the Italian city. And it's because this character is born in the water, and then they look up in the skyline and they can see Napoli, and they go, what should we name her? And then there's like a mob boss guy standing there, or he's like actually a military guy, but he's a mob boss guy, and he goes, Parthenope, and they're like, yeah, and
that's good.
And then we cut to her as like a young woman, and it's Celeste de la Porta, and this is her debut, and she is gorgeous, like that, and that's what the film is about. Is about how this is like this beautiful, beautiful woman, and all of these people she meets, like every man she meets, and some women like throw themselves at her, and to kind of devastating extents, right? And so she goes through, and it's a story of her life, and so really good. It takes place over like 40 years, so it's like literally from her at like 20 to when she's retiring. So yeah, really, really good. There's so much, and like I was like, oh, this I've seen, you know, things about this on Instagram or whatever when I put it on. And I was like, I'm only gonna watch half, and then I gotta go to bed. And I watched the whole thing, because I literally, you can't stop. This is just one of those movies where it's like every part of it, I'm like, oh my gosh, and it's emotional. Like there's parts that are really sad, parts where it's funny, but yeah, a lot of it too. And like I said, it's about this is just like it's just so like steamy, and you're like, oh, and you're blushing, and it's like, but,
I guess when you got to the end, did you like? Does it end it on a good note? Would you say, or is it still like kind of a continuation of that like feeling of like damn, this is like I don't know.
Yeah, dude, it's a special movie, I think. I haven't seen something like this in a while where I was like,
Mhm.
it ends well. It ends well. Like you're not disappointed with the ending. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, it's like I love these movies in that this feels like a book. This is I'll say this. As soon as I finished it, I was like, I need to read the book this is based on. So I like Google, I was like, Parthenope book, and all this comes books about Napoli were coming up, and I was like, no, the
Mhm.
book the movie the Parthenope is based on nothing. It's not based on a book.
Wow.
It's so like feels like that, and I was like trying to find research as like Paulo Sorrentino, you had to base this on something, and the other of his movies were coming up. It's like if you like this, you could try these, and I was like, those are films, I want to read, but yeah,
Mhm.
it's so good. All the characters are really big, um, but like shallow in like book ways, you know what I mean, and not in film ways where I feel like sometimes you watch a movie and you're like, oh, that's a shallow character. Like the actor
Yeah.
is doing one thing, but this is like they're written that way, like on purpose, and that's I don't know. It's like really cool. Um, Everyone in this movie is just stunning. Like
Mhm.
Parthenope is this beautiful actress who, by the way, Celeste Delaport is going to be like a superstar. Like
Yeah. Mhm.
unbelievable. Like I can't believe this is her debut. Like it's
Yeah. Well, so you said it goes from like throughout her whole life. So do they do
yeah.
like aging effects on
So
her
she's like,
or like,
they kind of slowly do like different looks for her from like when she's young to like into like her 40s kind of thing, and then they do like a time jump, and there's a different actress that plays her at the very end of the movie, and
oh, okay,
but
gotcha.
but that
Yeah, 20
actress,
to 40, you could definitely manage. You could definitely manage that,
yeah, and it's probably like only like 20 to like 35 ish kind of thing, where she's
Yeah.
like a young person before she settles into her adulthood as she's like trying to find herself, but. Yeah, it's really good. It's got like so much parts that like are kind of philosophical too. She like these big characters say things, and I'm like, I need to write that down. Like there's some
Yeah.
great little quotes. Like one of the characters says something like, uh, you know, it's the people that know everything that always die young. And it's like I
Hmm.
was like, that's interesting. And it comes from this like, kind of wise guy, and he says it to her, and she knew someone that was important to her who died young, and it kind of flashes back to that character, and you're like, ooh, like that's, and then she like,
Hmm.
you know, but yeah, and it's basically I don't know, it's really good, and so I highly recommend that. That's my recommendation for the week.
Where I guess where did you get the like inspiration to like watch
Um,
this movie?
So I've seen it online. It's posted like or like because A24. So I saw I think A24
Oh,
posted
okay.
about it.
Okay.
And then also it's on. I think it's on HBO. I think. And so it's on there. You watch it for free if you have HBO. But I guess if
Yep.
you paid for HBO, not for free.
I
But
got I got HBO. I'm
yeah.
mooching off of someone though, so I'm not really paying for it, but you know.
Keep your high seas sailing, yar.
Yes.
There's always
Yeah.
ways. But yeah, really good and really like unique movie. Honestly, like I feel like even if you don't like reading subtitles, this isn't a movie where you're gonna be like looking at your phone at all. Like you'll be watching this.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I'll have to check that out because I haven't. I feel like I haven't watched a good movie like that in a really long time. You know, and I feel
Yeah.
like that's even if it's not your cup of tea. I think it's something.
It's romantic, it's
Yeah,
like not.
yeah. You got to
Yeah,
experience it some. Yeah, it's not like it's like there's movies like that, and definitely chick flicks have their place in
hmm.
the time where
Oh
you're gonna
yeah,
watch something like that. But there's definitely a difference. I feel like with movies kind of like that.
yeah,
Like
definitely,
this.
and this isn't, like there are movies out there like like there's like I don't know, there's like Poor Things, right, where there's like a ton
Yeah.
of sex in that movie and it's nudity a lot. This is like steamy in like kind of a romantic way where you're like where she's like smiling and flirting, but the camera is doing things, and you're like you're blushing because of the way that they're
Yeah.
looking at each other, not because she's naked the whole movie. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right. She's
So
like, you're like, is she smiling at me?
no, no, I
Is
mean,
that for me?
no, it's really good. And oh, and the one other mention I'll say, because I didn't like Challengers as much as other people did, right? And there was this, there's like the scene in Challengers where Zendaya sitting in the middle of the two guys, and they're like leaning in, and she makes them kiss, because they're like trying to kiss her.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen in this movie, but there is a scene where she's dancing with two men, and one of them she's dancing in front, and the other one comes up behind her, and they're dancing, and then she turns around, and I was like, "That's how you do this. This is like a way
That's
more
crazy.
magical moment doing that same idea than what Challengers did, where it felt like, it doesn't feel like magical in that, and then in this it
Right.
does.
It's kind of more like a gag, kind
Yeah,
of a gag in that movie.
yeah. So yeah, we can move on from that, but
Sure.
yeah, great, great film.
hmm Oh, also, I saw before we move over to music, I saw that just popped up on my phone. I think I took a screenshot of it. Let me see.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, Nosferatu director Robert Eggers sets a Christmas Carol remake
Oh.
at Warner Brothers. Willem Dafoe eyed for Scrooge.
Well,
So,
that's obvious. Right?
yes, it
Willem
is
Dafoe will
obvious.
be in the movie.
Are we gonna? Are we gonna see naked Scrooge? Because I swear Willem Dafoe is naked in every single. Wait,
Well,
was he naked in Nosferatu?
um,
I don't know. I feel like he's just naked in every
yeah.
movie. He's a part of for Robert Eggers. So
Bah humbug. Bah.
yeah,
Bah humbug.
this is with Warner Brothers though, so that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean that it does kind of make sense. He's done some. He did some A24. I think Nosferatu was Neon, right? Or
Yeah, I
so.
think Neon.
Um,
He's tipping
but
his toes in all of them.
but Warner Bros has a deal with A24, at least for streaming
Oh,
distribution. So that's like all the A24 movies end up on Max for streaming. So I wonder if
oh, that's
there is
right.
some kind of dialogue there. But obviously with Warner Bros, he probably has a much bigger budget. Now his only other like really big budget movie, which was The Northman, which is a great movie. I think we
Yeah,
talked about before.
yeah,
It didn't do well in theaters, so
yeah.
I wonder. I wonder if he goes in and he does his shtick on the Christmas story, or like it is
Yeah,
dark and creepy, or if he's gonna do.
I think he keeps up with his I guess his you could say his vision, of some of these like older kind of stories that
Yeah.
because all of his movies are pretty much like
Well, they're very
older,
folktale, right? And
yeah, folktale and kind of putting that. I wouldn't even say his spin because honestly, the old folktale stuff is already pretty,
it
creepy when
is
you look
creepy,
into
yeah.
it already. So he's just kind of,
I mean,
he's
but
like,
yeah,
I'm
he's
not going to sugarcoat this at all.
yeah, but yeah, and it's gothic, and then he takes like these, but you're right, these like old stories like Hamlet for Northmen, and I think the witch they literally say, I think it's called like witch, like a New England folktale or something, and
Yes.
just like
Yeah.
literally says it in the name.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so I feel like if it's a Christmas Carol, though, I feel like it's going to get a lot better marketing than like the Northman did. That because that movie had
but
I felt like had pretty bad marketing in terms
yeah.
of like trying to get people to go see it. Because once I got in there, I loved it. I was like,
Yeah,
this
it's a great
is
movie,
awesome.
and Alexander
Sick.
Skarsgård, right?
Yeah,
I think he's the one, and he's doing his thing.
one of the
One of the
Skarsgårds. Yeah,
Skarsgårds looking huge and ripped and awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, oh, you know what? Go get the other Skarsgård, the dad or
Bill
uncle. Go
Skarsgård.
get no, not Bill.
Oh wait, no.
Bill is
Oh,
Nosferatu,
Bill.
right?
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought you were gonna
No,
say. The
so he's
dad.
already
Oh,
worked with two. Go get
yeah.
that. That was an Andor
Get them
and then
all in a
Dune.
movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's get all the Skarsgård. But I was saying, let's get Dad to play the the guy at the beginning of that's like the ghost in jail. The old partner that's dead,
Yep. Yep.
and he comes in with his chains, and he would be really good at that. And then you have Willem Dafoe. What do you mean I have to give my money away? And you're like,
Oh gosh.
what? But Yeah, so good.
That'd be perfect. I'm excited for that. If it, who see, things always change, but
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is gonna be sick. But yeah, I guess we can transition over to
Okay,
music.
let's do it.
Yeah, I guess my Alex's album of
Alex
the
album.
week. So this actually came out the same week as last week's album that I talked about, but there really wasn't a ton that came out this week that blew me away. We might talk about one of those albums
Okay.
in a minute here, but the one I want to talk about is Black Hole Superette by Aesop Rock. It's a rap album, but it's, so you could say, like, kind of experimental, kind of boom bap rap kind of things. But the and this was actually the first album I've ever listened to, like, all the way through from this guy. I've heard him on a ton of features. He's kind of, I think he's like he might be in his early 50s, or at least in his 40s. So he's relatively a little bit older compared to some of the other people that he collaborates with.
Mm-hmm.
But very influential guy too. I know that very much. But the stuff I loved about this album was that all of his songs are like kind of like little stories, and they all have a full circle moment at the end, and then kind of combining this storytelling with like super cool production. And yeah, and it's 18 songs long, which is like, that when I go into a rap album, that kind of scares me a little bit, because it's very hard to make 18. Any album honestly has 18 tracks. That's going to be like, how are you going to make each song different from each other, where it's like, I'm going to come back to this song and I want to listen to this song. And I think I have like 15 out of the 18 songs like with hearts or stars on Apple Music. So that I was blown away, because I'm like, that is a really hard thing to accomplish, to have this many songs, and almost all of them be like really good quality, really really really, like I said, like, they're kind of stories, so each one's kind of a different story. I think my favorite song is called Snail Zero, and he talks about in this song how he's like setting up an aquarium, or like fish tank kind of thing, and a snail finds its way inside, and it's like the snail that just like, it starts reproducing like crazy, and he's like trying to get the snails out of
I will have to listen. This sounds absolutely
yeah,
insane.
it's really funny. Yeah, it's a good time. But yeah, I was really happy I ended up listening to it, because I'm like, I never listened to like a full project from this guy, and I might as well start now, and definitely kind of get me excited to check out some of his other albums. But yeah, he's very different in terms of just um like a lot of stuff like I'll hear is just like kind of like talk, or at least in rap, where it's like, it'll be different production, but the topic is kind of this, not the same, but it revolves around some of the same things. But this is more of a story kind of format, which I like, is kind of cool, and it's kind of weird too. But yeah, good album. I'm hoping some albums are coming out this upcoming week, though, that more newer stuff.
King
But
is in 2 days.
that's true. Okay, all right. I'm hoping that is on the next week's, unless there's something else that ends up beating it out. But I also mentioned there were some albums that came out last week. The one we were talking about a bunch this weekend, was a new Turnstile album, which I did like. I didn't love it. I liked it, but I didn't love it compared to
I would
the
say,
last album.
and I wouldn't listen to their last album too the last couple of days. So I've been listening to those two in the gym a little bit. That's when I really can focus in on stuff.
Yes.
And yeah, it's like, actually, like, I would say this new album, like 60-70% of it, I love. I'm really into the hardcore sound of it. Like, I really like, what they're doing with that. But then I hate the few. There's like two or three on this new album that I'm like, this is Post Malone, and it's not what I like. And I'm like, I know that I like the idea that they're doing different stuff, I will say, um, I've seen tons of videos that they've been doing live, and their shows look awesome. And like every time I see a live thing of them, and they have all the people crowd rushing or like stage
Yep.
diving and stuff,
Yeah.
it's like that's so cool, and they're like so like chill with it. They have no reaction, and it seems
Hmm.
absolutely crazy. But yeah, they
Yeah.
seem.
Well, funny you say that. They just released that their tour.
Oh no.
They're coming to Columbus. So
Oh.
we might have to in September.
Oh yeah.
So maybe we gotta look. They have a ton of openers though. I don't. I'm it because usually it's like you look at
Yeah.
a tour. They'll have a ton of them, but it was like only some of them will be doing some dates, and they'll have them like marked out by little icons. But they don't have that for this one. They have 5 openers.
Wow.
And 2 of them or 3 of them actually really like. So
Okay.
I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe it'll be a good time. But
Yeah.
yeah, I agree though. Like I feel like some of the songs, I don't know. I think on their last album, because they have a few songs more spacey, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever they're trying to go for in the new one, I think they did a better job on the last album with those, or at least they didn't like. There's less of them, I'd say. So it's like not. It's like more of a like kind of a break in between some of the like faster songs. The more hardcore songs that
Yeah.
they're doing. So it feels more like a break instead of this. Seems like the more kind of the main focus, I'd say for the new album, or at least
I
part of the
at
focus.
least the beginning of it, right? That's like I
Yes,
think the second half of the album is much
finished
better,
strong.
yeah,
Yeah,
than the first. Like my favorite song is Birds, and its song is
yeah.
sweet, and then like it starts off sweet,
Great
and then
single.
like halfway through it switches to the second riff, and the second riff is awesome, and I'm like, this is like what I want. This is what I want to listen to all the time. This is such a good,
Yeah.
little bit of this song here, but. Yeah,
Mhm.
I did like that a lot. We also got a new Caamp album, which was it's good. It's Caamp. They're doing their Caamp thing. Caamp is it's a
Mhm.
Columbus band, so I like always have to celebrate them. Um, it's like indie and sweet, like kind of light rock. If you want to say that, it's very light, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's good. Sad, that's exactly what you want with that kind of music. So it's
They
good.
good. They got good like summer tunes. I feel like that's something I want to
Yeah,
play on like a summer night or something, and
it's
just
like for me, it's and this is I don't want to like diminish it in any way, but it's perfect for like if I'm driving in the morning. Like that's what I
yeah,
want to listen to. It's light, it's sweet, it's a little sad, but that's what puts me in the right mood for the rest of the day. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah.
then the other one I'll throw out there
That's okay. That's
is
okay.
Frankie The Witch Fingers. Just because they're a rock out band I like a lot from the state where the Pacers play, Indiana, and yeah, it's a really cool kind of concept. They fuse like sci-fi stuff into their albums, so like this has like a weird like kind of channel or um like AI stuff going on, or like that kind of like
Mhm.
they're making fun of, I think. And so it's a cool album. It's not incredible, but I enjoyed listening to it. So
Yeah, it's different. It's different.
yeah.
Um, oh yeah, and then I guess one last thing I'll throw out there before we switch off music. Just announced today that Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys
Oh
passed away.
yeah.
So and that's one of those like that's definitely a group. I need to because they have some great songs, and I know like people say even like the deep cuts for some of their songs are just
Hmm.
awesome. And he was kind of the lead guy, kind of lead composer of pretty much all their music. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think he was 82. So I'm sure he lived a pretty good life, no regrets, and one of the
There is
greatest people in music ever.
yeah. There's this incredible uh I think it's on for the BBC, like a BBC Music that did for a few years
Mhm.
ago, where they did God Only Knows, and he got like, or the BBC got, and it's him, and it's like every big British musician in the last like 30, 40 years that was alive, like, and this is like 10 years ago, but is in this video, and it is really pretty, and they're all singing and together, and do the song like a really well. And so, yeah, that's like one of those that you go watch that, like you go, okay, this
Yeah.
guy is like he's written this, and then you see all these other people like just loved, what that song meant, and yeah,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. Hope his family's doing all right. And yeah, go listen to some Beach Boys this
yeah,
this this weekend. Um, perfect time too. Start of summer. So um, yeah, I think we can. I was going to talk about something for gaming, but I'm gonna let it sit another week because I
okay,
want to see the full reaction. But
okay,
yeah, the game came out this past week, and it was not getting the best response. But I'm curious to see how
okay.
if anything changes over week. So yeah, I think we can switch over to space if you don't have anything else.
Oh no!
Ah,
uh, so
the SpaceX
tell me
rocket.
about
Ah,
what's going on in the world of space, other than
yeah.
all the impressions I'm going to do in a little bit here.
Okay, yeah, I'll say that part for the end. One part I want to talk about that it was something I never really considered, but actually is pretty important, at least in terms of like astrophotography. So when taking pictures of the sky and stars and other things you need, like these big telescopes to get, or at least the big telescopes on Earth, and you're trying to get a shot of something, is that these big like satellite constellations that they're like releasing into orbit. Um, they with the like how they're currently set up, they actually like will leave like marks in these like photos, like from these shots from these telescopes, like these like streaks of them like moving, and yeah, kind of like blurs things around it. So I never really considered that, and it makes sense that the more stuff we're throwing in our in our orbit, the kind of becomes like a polluted, kind of a polluted, kind of like light pollution, kind of blocks things from
Yeah,
being visible. So yeah, I think they're looking at painting these satellites in a specific coat of black paint to pretty much like stop them from getting in the way of everything. So
this is like, guys, I have the solution to this problem. We can
yeah,
it's not let's put less up there, but let's just make them, just paint them black. It's like, what
yes.
are we doing?
We need to get the tech that the Predator uses that like makes them like camo. We need
Yeah.
to put that on
Why
there.
not?
And
Why
just make it.
not? That would
Yeah,
make it
they probably
easier,
got
right?
something out there. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
that is
I just thought it was
hilarious
funny.
though, that they're like, yeah, the solution to this problem, it's okay if it covers the night sky as long as we can't see them. It's like,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. It's really just putting like a piece of duct tape over it, but
Get out of here.
if the astrophotographers don't have any issues with it, I guess then
Well, see, I
why not?
wonder if they're causing streaks from the light. I get that. So is the idea that they're like gonna be non-reflective, and so that way they
Yeah.
don't cause streaks, but then they'll still cause like black streaks, right? And then so like there'll still be
I
like,
think it's like they leave like, yeah, I don't think they will because it's like the astrophotography is like it like focuses in on a wherever it's looking at
mm,
for like for a very long period of time. So whenever, because the thing they're looking at isn't moving because it's so far away that the distance
okay,
from the telescope to the
okay,
spot
I
is
see.
it's stationary, but everything else is moving. So when you have like these things coming across and it's like reflecting light,
Yeah, it like blinds the
it's going to
camera.
leave a mark. Yeah, but if it's black and it's like a special coating that doesn't do that, then you're not going to
It'd be
see
fast enough and it
fast enough,
wouldn't.
yeah,
Yeah,
for it
okay.
not to leave something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I think. But yeah, I don't know how well that's going to work, like when they actually take a photo, because like, I don't know if you can really do that test on the ground. It's going to be like, all right, we got to send the satellite up here with the coat of paint and let's see if it, does what we want. So
Yeah,
yeah,
paint it black. That is
yeah. I
hilarious.
call this section fade to black.
Fade to black.
So let's fade to black on that. I had something written down called Cosmic Dawn. I think pretty much. Oh, yeah, here we go. Yeah, it's just this section. I just want to show or kind of talk about that. I guess this is another, kind of darkness kind of discussion, but astronomers are able to see like further, further and further into the past with how far these like telescopes are able to look, and they're pretty much able to see like the kind of the first stars, like pretty much the beginning of of our universe, or close to it. Like this is 13 billion years ago at cosmic dawn, hence the name. But I just think it's so cool, like how like it's kind of a bittersweet thing because we're pretty much time traveling. When you think about it, we're time traveling to see these things in the past, and we're just using light to do it. But we can't really go there. It's just kind of looking at it, observing it.
In some ways too, it's kind of like it's probably scientifically frustrating because it's kind of like we're developing these things that can see further and further, but we're not seeing accurate data. You know what I mean? It's because it's so old now. It's like oh, that's the beginning of time, right, or whatever. But it's like, what's that look like now? It's like we have no idea. Right?
Well, yeah, we would have to wait however many years
for the light to get here.
Probably not good. Yeah, and we talked about. I think we'd probably be in the red giant sun by that time. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think that's possible. But the one good thing, they are able to kind of take away this and like kind of understand like how our solar system formed, and how our planet and all the other planets, and the early days of our star, like what that looked like. So we're able to still kind of investigate everything going on.
Yeah, and you can extrapolate, right, because of that. Yeah. But still, like, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like, it's like we're developing better and better technology for one purpose, and it's like it's not getting us that purpose because it's too far, And, but that is such a scary thing, the way that like, because the light is so slow, or not like slow, but it's just so far away. It's further than the light can travel at the speed that we can look. That is terrifying,
Yeah.
In terms of
it tells you how
travel.
like and it tells you like just how
huge
everything is. Yeah. It is very existentially dreading. And then to move into the last section of space for space. And you mentioned you're gonna do some some cosplaying right here, but we talked about learning, able to look into the past pretty much, and learn how things are going, and we've been able to do that with some of the the exoplanets we've been discovering recently. And there's they just discovered this system, and it's like a 2-planet system, and both planets rain sand. They rain sand. Yeah, and they're like gas planets, because it's like I think Jupiter also is kind of like this too. I think it like rains diamonds or something insane. But yeah, it rains sand. So
okay.
I think we know someone that wouldn't like sand.
Now, I've heard that about Jupiter too, and I'll do the impression in a second here because well, I'll do it. I don't like sand. It's coarse, it's rough, but also okay, because I've heard that about Jupiter, but Jupiter also doesn't like have like a crust or like land. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you hear things like it rains so and such on Jupiter, but it's but what is it? It's raining into the gas, and
it's kind of like a system where it's like this the element or whatever kind of gas mixture. It's a gas, and then like solidifies at some kind of like temperature, or pressure that it's at and becomes like becomes a solid and then falls inward. But yeah, it doesn't really go anywhere. And these planets are the same compared to Jupiter, where it's like they're just gas planets. So we don't know a ton about these gas planets just because it's like, yeah, it's just kind of a wall of gas. We can only like hypothesize, like it has like a core, we're assuming, but we don't really know like outside of that how it all works. You know, there's some mystery in there. I'm pretty sure.
If they have cores, that like implies that, you know,
there's something. Yeah. There's some boundary thing, you know, that's keeping it all together.
That's
I'd say.
Are they just massive?
That's like, yes, yeah, because they're just so big. Because because they're the closest things to you're gonna get to like a star. There's even some kinds of stars that are like pretty much almost the same weight as like the heaviest gas planet. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they're the largest you're gonna see. But yeah, I thought it's cool. Like raining sand is such a random thing.
That is that. Like, I mean, that's
little kid.
Yeah, that is crazy. And obviously, if that happened here, it'd probably be pretty catastrophic in some ways. But it became maybe like a sandstorm would be similar, right? It's kind of blowing the sand around, but I guess if this is like it's created in the sky coming up,
is it like clumps of sand? Is it like clumps of sand? Because I feel like a clump of sand that probably could, you know, falling from a good distance would do some damage. But
now, this is a little bit different. But I saw, I think it was, you know, the Cruisigate or whatever, the Cruisiggeist, whatever that's called.
Yeah.
Say, this had this video about how the Earth could get a ring like Saturn, which I thought was pretty cool. And basically, you know, the moon is going away from the Earth right now, but the idea if it was coming towards the Earth, it probably, instead of like crashing into the Earth, what's a lot more likely is slowly its gravitational, as it gets closer, the Earth's gravity would start pulling on what's on the surface of the moon, not the moon itself.
Yes.
And so that stuff would start to like spiral around as the moon orbited, and then it would just crumble into pieces, and that would become the ring. And I was like, that's crazy, like that's how that would happen. But
yeah, there's a lot of and I think that's like what they try to take away from, because something like that could happen, but it's also like, how did the moon get here in the first place?
Well, the moon's going the wrong way, right? But
yeah, because we don't know the actual. We have like a few potential ideas of how the moon got to where it is, but yeah, we don't know for sure. So I feel like we could like learn something about that as well, like looking into these things into the past. Like if we could find like something like that happening to another planet, that would be really cool.
Oh man, yeah. Is the moon not like a piece of the Earth?
That's one of the ideas.
I didn't know that was just a theory. I thought that was accepted.
Well, I guess it's more of a like how it got there, because I think that's the main thing. It's like, yeah, it came from it was mostly a part of the Earth, but how did it like break off, you know, into where it is now, kind of thing. I think that's the main thing, is like, how did it get there, you know? Because I think, like, I'm pretty sure they've like been able to find, like, when they took the samples and stuff, like very common things between Earth and the moon.
I thought we had like, there was like a spot they found. They were like, this is where it came from, and that was like an idea. But
or maybe like the meteor that hit Earth that like kind of broke it off, kind of thing.
Yeah. So actually, maybe that's what it was. Is Earth was, you know, Earth shaped, and then it used to be the moon sat on top of the Earth like a hat, and then the and just popped it off, and that's how it happened. I mean,
that was its head. The body was the Earth, and the moon was the head.
Now we're just a headless planet.
He got decapitated. Yeah, he's just
decapitated Earth
endlessly. Yeah, that's funny. That account, that YouTube account you talked about, they have some awesome.
They do.
Awesome videos.
I love.
Yeah, I can never pronounce their name anyways.
They're German, so
yes. Yeah, they got good stuff. They had like a video on like fentanyl, though. I was just like, this is like so off. Like, Like they do videos on everything. I'm like,
No, it's literally
what's
just
going
like
on?
the dude will just be like, what if so and such, and you're like, what if? And then it's like animated video, and the dude's has such a nice voice, a great voice for those
Oh
videos.
yeah,
And the
put you to
Earth would
sleep.
probably die. It happens a lot.
Yeah, it always ends on a really awesome, like, feel warm kind
Yeah.
of like
You're like,
ending.
oh,
It's
this is
like,
really
yeah,
cool science, and then the guy goes, and everyone would be dead. It's like, oh,
yeah.
cool, cool.
Hey, it always has the little birds though. The
Yeah,
cute little bird
exactly.
guys. They keep you nice and happy.
That's sweet.
But
Well, there you go.
yeah,
That's our show, the end of our
yes,
show. Um, cheers, everyone, for listening. Thank you for listening.
yeah.
And cheers.
Cheers, everyone.